All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, December 8th. We have a large 12-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down below on the pinned comment of this video for my final plays if you are interested in those. They'll take you to the Guy Boston Sports site, absolutely free if you want to see what I'm actually rolling with myself. In terms of how we did yesterday, a 2-1 night. I guess the silver lining here, the glass half full approach to look at this would be our loss, or one of the losses was a half unit there on RJ Barrett. So 2 full unit hits and then 1.5 units in terms of losses. The Pelicans team total kind of got sweaty. I figured it would, but it still did cash. And then Ja Morant, easy one there. RJ Barrett, honestly, I don't think was the worst look. He did get into foul trouble and didn't play. I think he finished with 18-4. So we were right there anyways. I think we saw the board okay yesterday, but still, it's like the groove hasn't like caught yet. You know, we have good days, bad days, mediocre day. I want to go on one of those runs that we do plenty in the NBA. So I'm still waiting for that, but you know what? You can't just force those. Those will happen at some point. Our ride of the day does come through as well here. Dennis cashes. Devin Booker less than 28.5. You know what? Let's take a cha-ching there. That was a very good look in that one. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. Use that hashtag ride of the day. We saw the hashtag in the reply here. I know it's not in the screenshot, but use the hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play. You got to use that hashtag though. So Dennis, make sure today as you go on a streak, you got to use the hashtag. You got to use the hashtag. Use that hashtag. Said hashtag a million times. Just use it in the comments with your favorite play. I jump aboard with one person's play. You get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Also shout you out over on my X, as well as the Guy Boston Sports site. If you win, we continue to ride your play. Like I said, if you lose, we do got to talk about it. You still get the shout out, but you got to face the womp womp on the soundboard. I don't know how many times I just said hashtag, but I don't want to say it ever again, at least in this video. So let's go ahead and jump into today's slate. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's rock here. We got Chicago taking on Philadelphia. Philly cash for us last time out, right? They played the Magic. They win 102-94. They're 3-point dogs. We played them on the spread as well as the money line, and then we took it. Now, unfortunately for the Magic, we don't have to talk about them. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but they are absolutely banged up, so maybe that helped Philly win that game. But we have a new one here. We have Chicago taking on Philadelphia. Embiid is listed as a game-time decision, and then on the other side for Chicago, we have Kobe White and Nikola Vucevic listed as a game-time decision as well, and I believe Lonzo Ball might play, so that's worth noting. This is a Philadelphia team that obviously has struggled. They've been struggling both on the road and at home. But overall, Chicago's actually been very, very bad at home this year. 3-8 at home compared to their 7-6 away record. So far, it hasn't been the target Chicago when they're at home, right? I think Philadelphia could pull this one out. I envision that they start to get better and better as they get more healthy. I've said that in videos and believe me, it's not biased. It pains me to say it. I'm a Celtics fan. I love seeing this team kind of struggle, but they do have too much talent, I believe, to kind of struggle like they have been for as long as they have been. So as they get healthier, as Paul George is healthy, Maxey, Embiid now coming back, I do think at some point this offense starts to turn around. And I do mention the offense because their defense hasn't been all that bad. In terms of where they rank defensively, 8th fewest points per game allowed, 12th in terms of defensive efficiency, which you guys, if you don't know, I like looking at the efficiency numbers a lot more than the possession because, yeah, Philadelphia, 8th fewest points allowed, right? But they're the third slowest team in the league. Obviously, they're just not going to have that many high-scoring games, but they've been defending the perimeter really, really well this year. Kind of a middle of the pack in the paint. So, yeah, I like Philadelphia a lot in this spot, especially if Embiid plays. I mentioned Philadelphia defending the perimeter. Chicago loves to shoot from the perimeter. 3rd most shots from above the break and the corner 3 over the last 10 games, ranking in the league. They're the 3rd most. Philadelphia, 4th fewest points allowed from 3. So this could be a spot in which they kind of lock up that perimeter and take away the way that Chicago likes to score. And the Chicago team coming off of a loss to Indiana, if they can't run, I don't know if they're going to be able to kind of get in their groove. This is Philly who plays slow and Chicago who plays really fast. So I will say whoever kind of takes the pace in this one probably takes the cake as well. Nice little word there, a little slang. So give me Philadelphia as well as the under, because like I mentioned, if Philadelphia wins this one or keeps this one close, I do think it's because they threw Chicago off and made them play slow. If Chicago wins, it's most likely an over game, but I'll lean towards Philly as well as the under. In terms of player props, I do think you got your fair picks here for Philadelphia. You can look at Maxey and Embiid if he plays, even Drummond in terms of scoring and whatnot, because like I mentioned, Philly covers their perimeter well. They're okay in the interior, right? If we flip it over Chicago's defense, they're kind of in the same boat. Now, they cover the perimeter kind of like a middle-of-the-pack team, but they are dead last in terms of points allowed in the paint. So anyone that you like getting into the paint, like Maxey, like Embiid if he plays, I do think could have a decent game here against Chicago. Brooklyn taking on Milwaukee. Brooklyn getting a hefty amount of points. It says 7 on the graphic. I've seen 6.5s out there, so it might be moving in that direction. The total at 219. I've seen 218.5s out there, so just giving you guys an idea of kind of where it's moving towards. This is a Milwaukee team that was cruising right along. They then take a loss to Atlanta and a loss to Boston, but they did cover against Boston. Brooklyn has been so up and down, and they've been super, super injured, right? And most notably, Cam Thomas has been out. I guess Bogdanovich still being out. Their starting lineup today looks like it's going to be Schroeder, Keon Johnson, Cam Johnson, Finney-Smith, and Nick Claxton. On the other side of things, we do have Chris Middleton listed as a game-time decision, Prince game-time decision, and Giannis Antetokounmpo game-time decision. So there are some injuries to monitor here. I think 7 points is a lot, but now that this moves down and down and down, if you wait it out, I don't hate the idea of Milwaukee. Again, they were playing good basketball. They caught a hot Hawks team, and then obviously the Celtics. Those are two kind of explainable losses. And when you look at this Milwaukee team, they're better defensively, they're better offensively, and they're playing better basketball currently, and they have more star power. So a lot of reasons why I do think Milwaukee's probably the play here. But in terms of a total, I think I would look at the under. I'd want to snag this sooner rather than later. I don't know if I make this a final play, but I've seen 218 out there. I'd hate for this to get down to like 217, and we missed out on a bucket of wiggle room. You know what I mean? Like kind of like a safety net. So yeah, give me the under 219. This is not exactly a fast-paced Brooklyn team to begin with, and now with their guys out, with some of their scorers out, they just have not been scoring. Their last 4 games here against Orlando, 100 points. Against Orlando, again, 92 points. Against Chicago, fast-paced game, 102. And then against Indiana, fast-paced game, 99, right? So it's like they're just not really putting up a lot of points. Their offensive efficiency over the last few games hasn't been all that great either. Dead last in the league over the last 3 games. So yeah, I don't think Brooklyn has their way offensively against Milwaukee here. In terms of player props, a lot of injuries that we're waiting on, so nothing much as of right now. But we can flash it over to the NFL for some player props. So it is Sunday. I know we're talking basketball, but Sleeper Picks has a pick on sale. Mahomes 0.5 passing yards for Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a very, very good game against a good defense, but it only needs 1 yard. Go check out the link down below for Sleeper, guys. Sign up. Get this Mahomes square. You're also going to get a deposit bonus of up to $1,500, which still blows my mind to say out loud. And what's cool about Sleeper, if you guys don't know what it is, by the way, it's a DFS app in which you take players, their set projections, you say more or less based on the projection that Sleeper's picks, right? You put that into your entry. The more you get correct, the more you do get paid out. But what I was going to say, what I like about Sleeper and what makes them unique to a lot of other apps is that each and every player that you throw into your entry has its own dynamic payout booster and multiplier. So it doesn't just follow the fixed payout structure of 2 for 2 is 3x, 3 for 3 is this. No. Each and every pick you throw in there changes the payout. It's really, really cool, guys. Go check out Sleeper. Get this square, get the bonus, all that with the link in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Now let's jump back into these NBA games here. All right, Indiana taking on Charlotte. I got a lot of hate there for liking Indiana in their last spot, right? That was against Chicago, and people are like, what are you talking about? They should win. Like, I understand that we're going to get a bunch of picks wrong and a bunch of picks right and whatnot, but I find it funny sometimes when people are so damn like, that's a terrible spot, like before the game, you know? We get so many comments of that, and it takes one to know one. I mean, I'm preaching about what I like, but I don't say it in the way of like, you're stupid if you think the other way, but I love seeing those comments. I'm like, dude, yeah, you might be right, but the game's not for 7 hours. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to be like, no, I think the Bulls are going to win. It's another thing to be like, you're stupid and an idiot because you think the Pacers are going to win. You got egg on your face once the Pacers do. Anyways, let's get that off our chest, right? Let's jump into this game. Not exactly the sexiest of matchups here. Indiana does have the same injuries that they've been dealing with. Same thing with Charlotte. LaMelo still out. I do believe Bridges is listed as doubtful, so at least he's making sort of a return there in terms of potentially coming back. Same thing with Nick Richards. I don't know if they're playing today. That would change things, I'll be honest. If Bridges and Richards played today, that would change things, because if there's one defensive lapse here on the Indiana side of things, it is protecting the rim. That being said, even with Bridges and Nick Richards back, Charlotte's still going to elect respect for the three ball more than most teams in the league. So LaMelo being out is obviously the biggest sort of, slap in the face to them. And the fact that, they just played yesterday. They're on the back-to-back. I don't mind Indiana in this spot. Now, 11.5. I'll be honest, that's too many points because I don't think Indiana is kind of grooving well enough right now to be laying that many points to anyone, but this is one of those games, like I said, it's not a sexy matchup. This is one of those games where I say, I don't think 11.5 is necessarily enough to give Charlotte. I feel like people aren't going to realize the fact that this is a back-to-back situation for them, and Indiana may be starting to turn the corner. I mean, I would say maybe, and I say that with a smirk because, okay, they won one game, but either way, it's like way too many points to give, to have the Pacers, have to cover. And then it just doesn't seem like enough for Charlotte without LaMelo. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be on Charlotte today because there's some Pacers hate out there, and it makes sense, but to me, it's just on a back-to-back. I'm not loving it. I'm not McDonald's in right now. In terms of the total, though, I don't mind looking at an over in this spot. The Pacers should try and push the tempo, right? And we know Charlotte is a slow team. I understand that. But, if they get Bridges and Richards back, they should have some easy buckets that they wouldn't normally come by. I already mentioned the paint points. They're going to shoot on the perimeter, sure. Indiana's just a middle-of-the-pack team against the perimeter. So I don't think that Charlotte's going to have all this hard time or issues like trying to be able to go out there and score from the perimeter, obviously, right? But, if they get some guys, and even if they just have the guys, say Mark Williams and Brandon Miller scoring in the paint, like Indiana should be allowing them to get some easier buckets than that they don't normally come by. So 223, I think Indiana causes the tempo to rise. Charlotte's defense has tired legs. I think we could see some points in this one. And then no major player props. Maybe I'd consider like a Brandon, if those guys don't play or something, maybe just someone like him, because he can obviously score from multiple levels. And I do think that there's going to be a case of, well, oh wow, the Charlotte team's getting more points in the paint than they normally do. So maybe I'd consider the guy that's going to have the ball the most. All right, Atlanta taking on Denver. You might look at this one and be like, why is Denver, why is Denver underdogs in this one? Well, Jamal Murray out, and then I believe Aaron Gordon also out. And Atlanta, we already kind of mentioned them, right? When we were talking about Milwaukee. Atlanta is playing really, really good basketball right now. They're starting to click. It's not all Trae Young either. Like, they're just starting to play some good basketball. The defense has been there. Not necessarily that overtime game against the Lakers, but prior to that, their defense definitely has been there. And it kind of started when they beat the Cavs, who are one of the best teams in the league right now. They beat them twice in back-to-back games. So, yeah, this Atlanta team, I really can't tip my nose at. And now you have the fact that Jamal Murray's out, Aaron Gordon's out. And Jokic is still playing, but obviously Jokic likes to score in the paint. He had a phenomenal game yesterday, right? What was his final stat line? Let me see if I can find this. Jokic, in 38 minutes of play, 56 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists. That dude went off. I said it in my video, I liked Jokic, but I did not roll with it because of the potential blowout. I didn't think Washington would blow out Denver, so that's kind of a weird one there. But anyways, in this spot here, I do think that there is a viable kind of look at Atlanta. I do think that, Denver has been playing fast this year, so it kind of fits Atlanta's bill. It's tough to say because I do want to be like, no, Atlanta's not on fire. This is a Denver spot. They still have Jokic, but you have Denver on a back-to-back. You're catching Atlanta at home when they're hot. The guys are playing well. And one thing that I would say is that Denver likes to shoot in the paint, right? Atlanta's been one of the best teams in the league this year preventing points in the paint. Atlanta likes to shoot in the paint. Denver has been one of the worst teams at preventing points in the paint. So as much as I literally want to go and say, hey, screw this Atlanta run, let's send some regression here. I don't care about the injuries. That just helps us get points on the Denver side. I can't do it. Give me Atlanta minus the points. I think 3.5 is out there right now. It is tough because I truly, I want this to be an Atlanta Denver spot, but I just can't get there. In terms of a total, I definitely can convince myself of an under here, though. I just mentioned how Atlanta's defense has been playing well, and Denver's honestly hasn't. But if Atlanta's defense is playing well, I don't see Denver having, the type of game that they had last night where it's like 122 to 113. Atlanta might score 120, but even like a 120 to 115 game here, right? Cashes an under. So that's just a really, really high line. I will stick to the under there. And I hate to do it from a player prop perspective, but Jokic just scored 56. He had one of the worst paint defenses yesterday. He's on a back-to-back. He's going up against Atlanta, who is one of the best paint defenses here. I'm going to look at the under 31.5 points for Jokic. Now, I will say, like I already mentioned, no Aaron Gordon, no Jamal Murray, so who's going to get the ball? Like, I'm not exactly sure. This year, he's had one game without those two guys, right? And it was, did Jamal Murray didn't play yesterday, right? So one game without both of those guys, he had 56 points. I think one game without Jamal Murray earlier in the year, he had 23. So Aaron Gordon is definitely a factor there. I don't think he goes for 56 again. I'll sound the psycho alert alarm. Jokic under 31.5 points. It's crazy, but got a chance to be a final play. Fading Jokic is probably the dumbest thing in the world, but we might do it today. You're getting minus 102 odds too. Not the worst, but we'll see. We'll probably look at this yesterday or tomorrow and be like, wow, Jokic went for 50 plus in 2 straight games. That'll be just our luck. Miami taking on Cleveland. This line most likely is as low as it is because Cleveland did just play yesterday against Charlotte. Now, that said, I don't know how much weight I want to give this. Like, I think Cleveland's really, really good. And spoiler alert, I like Cleveland in this spot. It seems too easy, though, because they're the way better team. But overall, I'm kind of giving credit to the fact that, yeah, it was a back-to-back, but they played like 6 hours earlier than everyone else, so they do have a little bit more rest. Does that matter? I don't know how much weight to put in there. Miami looks like they're playing some good basketball. They beat the Lakers. Okay, well, that was the Lakers on the road, and they beat Phoenix. Okay, that was a really banged-up Phoenix team. But it looks like they've been playing better basketball, right? 6-4 in their last 10, all that. But it still just doesn't compare to what Cleveland's been doing. Like, Cleveland beat Boston, beat Denver. They beat Washington, beat Charlotte in their last 4 games. I'm not necessarily putting too much weight into that, obviously. But to me, this is just too small of a line. So give me the Cavs minus the points here on the road. In back-to-back situation this year, they've covered in 75% of games. That being said, Miami, when they have a rest advantage, they have covered in 100% of their games. So Miami definitely does well in in rest advantage situations, which they have here. But Cleveland's been really, really good on the road. They've covered on the road 70% of games this year. Like, I don't know. Is it too square of a play? Like, am I missing something here as to why this line is just at 3.5? And I think I've seen the potential 3 out there too. I don't know. Cleveland minus the points is definitely the direction that I'd look at here. Maybe at the very worst, we don't touch it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that I can rationalize or get to Miami. That's for damn sure. You know what I mean? So maybe it's Cavs or nothing in this spot. And I also wouldn't mind like potentially looking at the Cavs in some sort of a money line parlay, or even right now they're minus 150 on the money line. That I don't mind either, but I wouldn't go beyond minus 150. On a back-to-back, I don't think I'd see necessarily the value. Now, from a player prop perspective, both of these teams, one, the Cavs like to shoot in the paint. Miami hasn't been all that bad at preventing points in the paint, so I don't necessarily love kind of looking at Allen or Mobley. I would probably pivot to the perimeter game, which would be Garland or Mitchell for either points or 3-pointers made, but I don't know how much I really want to dive into this one because it is a back-to-back, and those guys did play they probably played more than they thought they would against Charlotte yesterday, so maybe no player props here. I'm not really considering any Miami props because Cleveland's defense is very good, and the lines I don't love for unders either. So I think it would be either Garland and Mitchell from deep, 3-pointers made or nothing. So there's a lot of X or nothing in this game, essentially. Hey guys, by the way, over on the merch store, GuyBostonSports.com/store, we have hats, most hats on the site up to 25% off with the code HAT25. So go ahead and check it out. We'll put that by the final play. So just follow that link in the pinned comment and it'll take you over there, guys. Again, 25% off most hats like this one on the site, GuyBostonSports.com/store. GuyBostonSports.com/store. Go ahead and check it out. All right, we've been waiting for this one. Orlando taking on Phoenix, and what a kick in the you-know-what's here for Orlando. They had been playing well. They had been grooving and honestly grinding without, Paolo Banchero, and it's like, wow, this team's really doing something. They're playing well. And now Franz Wagner out for, I want to say, let's see if we can get an updated timetable on him being out, right? He's going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks. He tore his oblique. Like, oh my God. If I had an oblique to look at, I'd know that would hurt so much, but we just got a barrel right here. But unfortunately, that just gives me no real hope in this Orlando team. I think that they were hanging on by a thread, and I give them credit for hanging on by a thread. Don't get me wrong. This is not a, screw Orlando spot, but I think people were like, oh, Banchero didn't matter that much. Dummies. He mattered so much. Franz Wagner stepped up in a big way. Who's the next guy to get hurt? Franz Wagner. So, yeah, I'm kind of off of the Orlando hype train now. I think that that's going to be the biggest of blows. And you might look at this one and be like, well, I guess you look at Phoenix and it's they haven't been playing that well. They lost to Miami yesterday, which, by the way, now that I say Miami was a rest advantage over Cleveland, duh. Miami confirmed not a rest advantage over Cleveland, so we get to that one. I know there's probably going to be comments being like, Miami's on a back-to-back too, and then you watch this part and you're like, oh, he realizes that, but I didn't say it then, so hand up, that one's on me. But Phoenix, on a back-to-back here, I still just don't mind the spot for them getting points. I do think without Durant, they are a way different team. Without Nurkic, they're a way different team, but I'm telling you, this is like Orlando's kind of a fan favorite team right now, but this is an absolute just fade Orlando type of spot for me right now. I cannot get behind them without Wagner, without Banchero. Like, if they impress us and impress me, then great. I'm going to clap for them because I love that underdog story, but I think that is a massive, massive blow. Like, they're more injured than the Suns right now, so give me the Suns plus the 2.5 points. A total at 211, I really have no idea where to go with this total. I'll say under because I do think that, the Thunder, the Magic still should be able to play decent defense, and the Suns, no Durant, no Nurkic, like their offense may not be all that tremendous, and they only scored 111 yesterday. So yeah, maybe this is an under spot, but I think I'd go Suns or nothing in this game. Like, I don't think that total is really a viable final play option. All right, Washington taking on Memphis. Washington beating Denver yesterday. They were 11.5-point dogs by the time that closed. Memphis beating Boston. They were 7-point dogs by the time that closed. I will say, both teams obviously on a back-to-back here, but this Memphis team I feel like has young enough legs and whatnot that I still don't mind them. And this should be such a letdown spot for Washington, right? Like, I know 11.5 points is a lot, and I don't know if I sit here and scream from the rooftops, oh my God, Memphis deserves to be 11.5-point favorites, but this Washington team stinks. So they won yesterday, right? Even in their last 10 games, if you gave them an 11.5 spread on every one of those 10 games, they would only have covered in 2 of those 10. So, like, this number, when Washington's playing, that number is not as big as it looks for other teams. And you throw in the fact that Washington, like we've been saying, is terrible at covering points in the paint, right? That's why we liked Jokic yesterday. Ja Morant and company should be able to get to the paint. So depending on the back-to-back and maybe if these guys don't play, like right now, their starting lineup, Morant, Bane, Wells, Jackson, and Clark. Like, no one in their starting lineup is listed as out or game time decision, anything like that. This definitely is a spot in which I like the idea of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. to put up some numbers. Now, do they put up numbers like yesterday, I guess, in a sense, whereas Morant, like I said, was not really sweaty, right? He ended up finishing with, I think it was 31 points. Jaren Jackson finished with 27. You watch back yesterday's video, I liked both of them. This could be a spot in which we look at kind of maybe a same game parlay for both of them where we knock their points down a little, because I do think that they're going to be a little bit higher, which they are. And rightfully so. They're playing even worse of a interior defense than the Celtics, and the Celtics have not been the best interior defense yet this year, right? But Ja Morant's points right now, 22.5. That's gone up 3 since yesterday. Jaren Jackson Jr. is at 19. I don't necessarily mind that. Last time he played Washington, which just earlier, was it? Yeah, in early November, he had 39 points. Ja Morant, last time he played Washington, I don't have that up in front of me, actually. But either way, he's going to be able to score in the paint. I think a same-game parlay where we take their lines and kind of bump them back a little bit. Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe 15+. Ja Morant, maybe 18+ or 20+, that type of thing, and put them together. That could be a good spot. My only concern is Washington, they are on a back-to-back, and what if they do just say, all right, throw in the towel. We got to win. We're happy, right? And this becomes a blowout, whereas Memphis also on a back-to-back is going to want to get some rest. So not exactly sure there, but give me Memphis as well as those players. We'll figure out a way to maybe work them in. From a total perspective, this thing is super, super high, and I understand why. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but obviously I'm a poet and didn't know it. Whoops, did it again. Things get awkward over here. But in terms of that total, I don't think I can really lean towards an under just because of the lack thereof of defense on Washington. But I would probably, this is one of those patented things that we seem to sense well sometimes. I like Memphis to score, so I think that their team total over could be high, but it's going to be super, super high with that total. But I like Washington to not score many points. So maybe we just look at like a Washington team total under. I think Memphis's defense is legit. They just beat the Celtics, and they had plenty of possessions in which they played some good defense. Celtics still scored 121, but like, it's the Celtics. All right, Spurs taking on the Pelicans. This one is just going to come down to what I look at from an injury perspective, honestly. If Wembanyama plays, which he's listed as questionable, if Wemby plays, then I like the Spurs a lot, minus the 4.5 points. No Trey Jones still, which I think is a bigger blow than some people are giving credit for, but he's missed Victor Wembanyama has missed the last 2 games. If he does play, I do like them. Brandon Ingram's also listed as probable. This is a Pelicans team that we took a few nights back, right? And it was kind of like I understand how crazy it is and all that, but they beat Phoenix, and then they just played yesterday against OKC, and we cashed their team total under. So I don't want to look like this person that's really high on the Pelicans. I'm not. I know that they struggle and all that, but this is a San Antonio team that also struggles without Wemby. So that's why it's really important for me to look and see, okay, well, if Wemby's a go, then yeah, I'll probably lean towards him. But as crazy as it is, if he doesn't, I'd probably flip over to taking the 4.5, maybe 5 points with the Pels. Do I actually get there myself? Not exactly sure. But all of those spots that the Spurs have been good at this year, right? Defense and preventing points in the paint, or even on the perimeter. Like, Wembanyama is so big and long and agile as a 20-year-old that he covers a lot of ground. Without him in there, it's like, yeah, the Zach Collins effect isn't all that great. Harrison Barnes, Champagnie, Castle, Paul, like those guys are not, Harrison Barnes I give credit to, but those guys are not playing the defense that he plays. So yeah, this is almost like the Victor Wembanyama watch session, because if he plays, I do think that there's a chance that I make a final play, San Antonio minus the 4.5. If he doesn't play, there's honestly a chance that I make the final play of Pelicans plus 4.5, as long as Ingram plays. So yeah, kind of crazy talk there, but that's what I'm thinking. In terms of the total in this one, we keep getting burned by taking San Antonio unders. That being said, the Pelicans are not going to play at that fast of a pace, or not that fast. They do play at a decently fast pace. Their efficiency is so bad. So as fast as the Pelicans can play or want to play, they still don't score that many points. But it's also hinging on Wembanyama, right? Defense, Wembanyama. No defense, probably looking at it, and no Wembanyama, probably looking at it over. So if Wembanyama plays, I like the under. If he doesn't play, might like the over. I know that's confusing, but you know what, guys? I'm not going to fake confidence for content like I tell you guys a lot in this spot. This really does hinge on Wembanyama's yes or no playing. So I'll tell you that right now, as we record this early in the morning, it really does factor into my equation if Wembanyama does play or not. It's just transparency. Like, yeah, I'm on the fence, but it's the Wembanyama fence. All right, Golden State taking on Minnesota. These two teams just played, was it 2 or 3 nights ago in Golden State again, whereas the Minnesota Timberwolves won 107-90. The Warriors have had some injury issues, right? Steph Curry looks like he's going to be good to go in this spot. He did play, it was like 33 minutes in the last one, so he was fairly healthy. Draymond Green also played, so they had their guys last time out, but ended up losing that game by 17. I think that the Warriors probably bounce back in this spot. I have not been totally proved. Like, I know this Timberwolves team is playing well, and that's why we like them against the Warriors a couple nights back, right? But at some point, you play the same team twice in 3 days. I think, especially the home team, I think the home team can take one, and the Warriors just got Steph back. Now he's been back in a sense. Give me them minus the 1 point. It's essentially a money line pick. If you are on the Minnesota Timberwolves and you like them this morning or whenever you're watching this, do not let me talk you off it. I think that this is obviously a very good example of a game in which either team could be the play, right? Like, Minnesota showed that they can beat this team, and they showed that their defense is like clicking. Their defense has taken a while to totally warm up, but they've been looking really good. Lately, in the last 3 games here, which they've won 4 in the last 3 games, number 1 team in terms of opponent points per game and number 1 team in terms of defensive efficiency. But you throw into the mix, Golden State is right there behind them, number 7 team in the last 3 games in terms of opponent points per game and number 4 in terms of defensive efficiency. So I know Minnesota's been playing well offensively, but their defense is totally kicked in. Golden State can kind of do it too, but now they have a spot in which it's kind of a mini revenge spot because they just lost this team on their own floor 2 nights ago, and they're at home again. So, yeah, I like Golden State for those reasons. But if you're on Minnesota, I really don't want to and can't necessarily knock it overall. Total-wise, we're looking at 216. So normally, if I were looking at this game in a vacuum, I would say under. But again, I'm factoring a lot, and is this always the best way to sports bet or look at games? Maybe not, but I am definitely factoring in the fact that they just played a couple nights ago. I've said it, 10 times in the last 1 minute? I will say that I think a lot of times when these two teams play, or any two teams play that much, things flip on its head, like I already mentioned. So we saw a really low-scoring game in game number 1 here. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, we just saw it. It's going to be an under again. Give me the over, and it's got a chance of being a final play because I know I gave both of these defenses credit, but I feel like both of these offenses can score in bunches as well. The numbers, looking at these data points and whatnot, the analysis for these games, for these two teams, would say, oh, they're better defensively than offensively. But we know that we have Ant, Julius Randle, Steph Curry. Like, we know that we have a very good offense on both sides with some star power. And no player props in this one either. I think it's either going to be Warriors and the over or nothing really, or one of those two, obviously. All right, Kings taking on Utah. Now, if you are not aware, aware, we do have the do not best bet graveyard here, and the Kings, they have literally, I've said it multiple times, this season have grabbed me by the you-know-whats, and they've twisted, so I hate the Kings right now. I do like them, but they have literally just not respected any bit of our shillings for this NBA season. We have, I believe, lost over, or just under actually, 3 units on Kings plays alone, whether it's money line or spread this year. I don't know why we had like a Kings frenzy towards the beginning of the year, but we did. So they are in the do not bet graveyard here, along with Brook Lopez 3-pointers made, which he can come back. I believe it's 12-12. Potential revival, right? We have to see some life. And then Clint Capella overall, we got a couple more days of not loving him. So even if we do like the Kings in this spot, I can assure you right now, it won't be a final play. We're not actually going to put our own hard-earned bread on it, okay? Because we do like the Kings in this spot. I don't see any reason to like Utah. In fact, I wish the Kings weren't on the DNB here, because this is a Utah team that has been pretty bad, along the perimeter so far this year, which that means Sacramento should have some Keegan Murray, De'Aaron Fox. These guys should be able to have a little bit more success there. And then even if you look at it from a points in the paint perspective, which is where Sacramento probably would prefer, with DeMar DeRozan, Sabonis, even Fox kind of getting into the paint or the mid-range area, that's where Utah's also struggled defensively. So Sacramento should have their way offensively here with this team. So yeah, I like them. I don't see any reason to get to Utah. The one thing that I could say is Lauri Markkanen may be coming back, right? He may be healthy, so that's going to change things. And I definitely don't like the 12-point line at that point. But as of right now, this is a Sacramento spot for me. I'm not touching it because I know the minute I go, if this is Sacramento, Sacramento, they just blow up in flames. You know what I mean? So I'm not touching it until 2025, which is closer than people think. In terms of a total here in this one, we do see a 230.5, which if you look at these two teams' pace, you're kind of like, why? Last 10 games, Utah, the 21st ranked pace team. Sacramento, the 20th ranked pace team. Sacramento's defense hasn't been like that ridiculous. So why is this line so high? And then it's like, oh, well, that probably speaks to the fact that, yeah, Sacramento should be able to put up a big number here. They're 12-point favorites. So I look at a Sacramento team total over before anything else. I don't want to rely on Utah, 21st offensive efficiency team this season to be able to kind of contribute and whatnot. I will look at Sacramento, which it blows my mind to say that they're a top 10 offensive efficiency team, number 9 this year, against the number 2 worst defensive efficiency team. That's why this total is high and that line is high. So I look at a Sacramento team total over. I'll have to think about if we can look at Sacramento team total in terms of the graveyard play, because I think I just broadly stroked Kings, but so far it's been money line and spread that's burned us. So I don't know. We either stay disciplined and don't touch them, or we say team total's a little bit different with a little asterisk. We'll see. That's where I would go if I'm touching the total at all. But again, that graveyard is definitely in my head. Which, by the way, go ahead and comment graveyard if you made it this far into the video. I think that it's a pretty fun idea, right? Like, a lot of people commented being like, yeah, it's really cool. I like that idea. We can have some fun with it. Other people are commenting being like, every single day of sports betting should be its own vacuum. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. It's like, I know that, but we're making videos here. If I was just a robot spitting out picks, I wouldn't want to have fun or anything like that. But we're trying to entertain just as much as we are, going through the slate and whatnot. So I think that this idea is fun to monitor, see the Kings potentially revive, and all of a sudden they came back from the graveyard, they're cashing for us, that type of thing, all right? We got 5 spots. We got a little bit of room above here, which we can add some stuff as well. I think it's fun. Comment graveyard if you made it this far into the video. But again, I hear the comments of like, that shouldn't matter, and I know that it shouldn't matter. Our do not bet graveyard shouldn't matter in the NBA, I understand. But it brings a smile to my face, is what it is. All right, this one honestly was one of the tougher ones to go through this morning prior to recording. I've bounced back and forth, so let that be at least a little peek into this silly brain of like, well, which side is he really like and whatnot. This is definitely a game in which both sides can be correct. I think it's going to be a tight, low-scoring game, right? So I think ultimately I end up leaning towards the Clippers, but they've played twice this year. The Rockets look good against them both times, but this is a Clippers team at home. It's a little bit different. Houston was home both of those games prior to, and both of these teams play really well at home. So I think as these two teams meet, I just look at the home team, and that happens to be the Clippers today. So I'll take them plus the 3 points here at home. But overall, like if you look at these two teams, both really good at defending the perimeter, both really good at defending the interior. Houston should win the assist to turnover battle. Rebounding, they're very, very similar. Defense, they're very, very similar in terms of opponent points per game and defensive efficiency. Sure, like very, very, very similar teams. So it was a tough one. but because they're so similar, I'll take the team that's at home and getting points, right? So the Clippers are going to be my move in this spot. I also don't mind an under, even though that's so low at 215.5. The two games that we saw them play earlier was 125 to 104. Okay, that was high, right? The other one was 111 to 103, and I think that could be a little bit more of what we're seeing here. We did just see Houston hold Golden State without Steph Curry, 299. They did lose, but they still held them to double digits. And this is the Clippers defense at 2 games in a row now. Now, it was Portland for one of them, but the other one is Minnesota. They held them to 105 and 108. They did lose against Minnesota, but still, the defense was kind of there. And they've only had 3 games in their last 10 in which opponents got to triple digits. So I think the defenses thrive here, especially the Clippers. Give me the under in this spot. But honestly, if this is an under game, I think it favors the Clippers a little bit more. So it's probably just a peek at the Clippers. Now, I will mention, I didn't even talk about injuries yet. Van Fleet in game time decision, Tate in game time decision. On the Clipper side of things, James Harden game time decision. So there are a couple, injuries to monitor here, but I imagine both of those sides play. All right, Lakers taking on Portland here in this spot. This is a kind of large number, I guess, just in general, right, for the Lakers. But when you look at the Lakers this season, where have they been? They've been decent, right? They've been better at home. They're 7-3 at home this year compared to their 5-3 record on the road. And Portland 3-9 on the road. Not all that great. You look at it from a cover perspective, though. The Lakers just covering 50-50 at home. Now, they've had some big numbers, but this is a big number. And Portland, because they're getting big numbers, have covered in 55% of games at home. So I do think that there's a lane to get to Portland here, and I'm going to take it. I mean, I don't think that they win this game, but 8.5 just seems like it's a little bit too much for me to be comfortable with overall. I also think that from a player prop perspective, we could see a couple decent spots that we maybe kind of sort of could like DeAndre Ayton down low. In terms of this Lakers defense, they don't score too much, and I say maybe because it's like you're still taking a player that might not play in a blowout, and yes, there's viability to the Lakers being able to just stomp this team, but DeAndre Ayton, 14.5 points for plus money seems pretty damn low. And last time he played them was last year. He only had 6 points, but that was only in 22 minutes of play, and he shot 43% from the floor. This year, he's playing nearly 30 minutes, and he's shooting 56% from the floor. So when he plays, let's say 20, we'll do at least 30 minutes, right? Or 29 minutes. He's covered in 9 of his 12 games this season. He's done it in 6 straight games, averaging 16.5 points. I don't mind this spot. This Lakers team is not all that great defensively, especially at the rim, and to the center position, the 5th most points over the last 7 days, and the 4th most threes. Now, is DeAndre Ayton going to be pouring in the 3 ball? No, but he'll take, 1, maybe 2 a game. If he hits one of those threes with a 14.5 point line, that's a massive, massive increase. So I'm not sitting here being like, let's take Ayton over 0.5 threes. It is plus 375, just saying. But if he hits one of those because he's got decent chance to against the Lakers team, it could be well on his way. So yeah, I look at him. I also considered the points plus rebounds. I know everyone looks at this and be like, Anthony Davis, they're so good, but they haven't been covering the center position all that well. So I think points plus rebounds is also a decent look for DeAndre Ayton. The problem with that one is it's 24.5, and that just seems really, really high for a guy that's averaging 14 rebound chances per game. He essentially needs 10 rebounds, and I see him getting like maybe 8 as a floor, but he could sit right there, right? Like his rebound line to get double digits, he's only had once in his last 7 games. So I think him on points could be a look. So give me Portland plus DeAndre Ayton. In terms of total, I left it for the end for the reason I really don't have much of a take on this one. Portland plays faster than the Lakers, but the Lakers, because of their defense and because of sometimes they do just play fast, like I really don't have much comfortability looking at much from a Lakers side of things overall on the pace. Like sometimes they'll have a game in which they score 80 points like they did against Minnesota, and they scored 132, albeit overtime, but still, they took it to overtime with a lot of points against Atlanta. It's like they just matched the other team's pace, and Portland, middle of the pack pace team, so I don't really know what we're going to get, kind of like a box of chocolate. So I'll probably stick away from that total. But guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Keep an eye on the pinned comment. It'll take you to the Guy Boston Sports site for all of our final plays, absolutely free. Go ahead and check that out, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.